Welcome to my podcast, Today's Dream, Tomorrow's Reality. My name is Vickie. I'm a master transformational coach and hypnotist specializing in habit change. And this podcast is sponsored by The Enlightened Peach, and it's all about embracing our mosaic life. And some of you may ask, what is a mosaic life anyway? Well, it is recognizing that all the pieces of our life, the good, the bad, the indifferent, have all come together to make us who we are. Change any one thing and we are different. With that in mind, I invite you to embrace your perceived imperfections and celebrate who you are. This podcast is unedited and raw, just like life. And I am your host. And today I have a special guest that I'll introduce in just a moment. But before I do, I would love for you to do me a solid. And that means leave a comment, leave a question, like, subscribe, and share. So now let's get started. So this lovely gentleman right here is Dwight, and he goes by the Right Warrior. And so I don't really know him. I don't even remember how we connected, to be perfectly honest with you, but I'm so excited to hear a little bit about what you do, because the only thing that comes to top of mind is I know you write poetry, and I used to write poetry as a teenager. You would probably never want to read it, and I don't even have copies of it, but it's just that it made me think, and just talking to you just a few moments ago, it was like we were such kindred spirits with some of our thoughts and everything. It was like, this is a match made in heaven. I'm so excited. So Dwight, you go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody, and then we'll just get started with the getting to know you.
My life is a bomb with a 5-ring alarm. 1, 2, 3, contact. I do you bodily harm. Do you catch where I'm coming from? As your life signs go critical. Beep, beep, beep. My hidden agenda becomes visible, physical, lyrical. My mission statement hit the pavement. If anybody asks, like FedEx, I was sent to leave a dent in this world like an impact crater. I see the truth for what it is, a baby shower. However, I say you better run, son, before you get hit with the bullets from a gun, rip through you, blades of ninjutsu. Your style got splayed as I rise into the blue. I don't need a crew. Express myself, mag train, switch tracks, spread life, blood vein. The pain was real when I felt the verbal daggers cut through my soul like a knife through cheese and crackers. But the storm gathers and brews on your horizon. You better run, son. There can only be one. In the end, son, there can only be one. Blessings. My life is a bomb in a sanctum, protecting my peace through poetry. My name is Dwight Thompson, aka the Right Warrior, and I am your gospel poet and a fellow human being. Blessings. Thank you for having
Beautiful.
me, Vickie. Thank you.
Wow, that is such an amazing way to start. I mean, haven't had that happen before. So beautiful. I love it.
Salute, salute.
You can tell what crowds you go in when you're doing this, right?
Come on, we bring him back to speak easy, old
That's
school time.
right. Well, I went to, there was a meetup that I used to go to, and it was actually a coffee shop meetup, but they met, and it was like the spoken word. And it was,
Yes.
and it was like, I saw this on TV. I love it. I love it, So it
Come
was
on now.
beautiful.
And what
Yeah.
folks don't realize is depends on how much you appreciate the moment. One hand, two hands, and the duration matters too. Because
Okay.
sometimes when someone says something, clap is too loud, yelling is
Yeah.
too loud. You just want to quietly, symbolically recognize the value of.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you for that. Thank you. So I just want to ask you, as we kind of dive in. So,
Go.
where did you grow up?
So I came from the Caribbean original,
Okay.
representing several different islands, grew up surrounded by beautiful beaches, even more beautiful people. And then
Nice.
Florida, Pampuna Beach, Florida has been my hometown for quite a minute now, represented the 954, the 305, the 561, the 754, the 785, 786 back in the day. And I've always been able to stay close to either the ocean or to great people. And South Florida represented both. I'm able
Okay.
to tap into wonderful people, wonderful environment. Now it is hurricane season, from June until November. So we have to be alert and pay attention to the weather forecast. But other than that, it's a beautiful place and a beautiful town to be in.
Yeah. So what part of Florida are you in?
Pompano Beach, Florida.
Pompano Beach. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a guest on my master class that I had right before here, and she was in Miami.
See, so Miami is about an hour and a half from Pompano Beach,
Yeah.
and it's right on the coast, on the East Coast, and it's gorgeous. If you can take the time to enjoy the beaches, enjoy the festive atmosphere. Yes, there are issues with crime and the police and, the homeless issue and poverty levels and redlining and everything. However, most people that you meet tend to be of a general good disposition.
Yeah. Well, I kind of go with the feeling that whatever you look for, you find. So if all you're looking
Mhm.
for is the crime and the homeless and everything, you're going to have tunnel vision, and that's the only thing you're going to see. But if you're looking for the beauty of things, you're going to see the flowers and the ocean and the sky and the trees and the people that are about, kind of like you are, right? And so it's all in a matter of focus, don't you think?
Perspective is everything.
Yeah.
Perspective is everything.
Yeah.
The cup could be half full, it could be half empty, or maybe it's not the cup.
Yeah.
Maybe just a bowl of water, and that's all. No
Yeah.
significant.
Yeah, yeah. So you grew up in the Caribbean. It did, that's right, right? So when did you come to Florida?
Well, it's been a minute now. Originally, I came for college.
Okay.
So in my book,
Where did you go
Pivot,
to college?
St. Thomas University.
Okay. And what did you
Yeah.
study?
Oh, now wouldn't you guess it? English and mass communications,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So right up my alley. And one of the things that happened was when I first came, and I realized the potential of learning anything, I just applied myself to everything, right? And in my book,
Mm-hmm.
Pivot, I talk about how the journey from college to adulthood was rocky, as it is for most folks, but the transitions taught me how to understand and value myself, and then from there, I moved into the private sector. I worked for different companies, telecommunications, customer service. Who hasn't worked at a call center, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then I landed the big whale, working for Broward County, which is the government. And that launched me into understanding the politics and how our park system works,
Mm-hmm.
right? And how exactly we collect taxes, where does the money go? And for the first time, I really understood what it means to be civically responsible and the machine behind the fact that everyone have the ability and the right to enjoy Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, let's go back to that rocky thing you were talking about. What the rocky past. So like we all have, but let's dive in a little bit and let's see what was this rocky past that you speak of.
Well, as you know, most folks will tell you that college is for a purpose, right? So you're supposed to go to college, then
Mm-hmm.
get the dream job.
Right.
But no one tells you there's something called an interview process in between.
Okay.
So you have to interview for the positions.
Right. Yeah.
So now it is so amazing. I've gone from trying to struggle and understand what the interview is, how to do a cover letter, so that now in my business, I'm helping other people write their cover letters, helping them
Oh.
navigate the interview process. And we just did a workshop in March, 3 sessions where we had everyone come into the room. It was on a LinkedIn social media app, and we talked about how do you navigate the interview, whether you are switching your career or you are looking for that promotion. How do you navigate? And do you know what the main thing is? You have to be yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge
Yeah.
proponent now of being yourself within the interview process. And guess what? If they don't hire you, most of the time it has nothing to do with you. what they want in the team or what they are missing is not what you have, and that's okay. It's
Mm-hmm.
not for you anyway.
Yeah. And it's important not to take that as a lot of people will look at it, like you said, that it's them, and then they'll actually let that become part of their identity. Well, I'm not good enough. I don't have the skills. They think I'm this or they think I'm that. So yeah, so you're doing some amazing things. So I love that you took the little messiness that you realized was a problem for you, and you figured out how to help other people not have to have that problem.
Exactly, because that's what it's
Brilliant.
about. Come on now. I always say a simple example is if we are walking through the woods on a hike and I stub my toe on a branch, or I see a huge spider web with banana spiders that we have a lot down here. They are harmless, but they're huge. They're about the size of my fist.
Ugh.
My responsibility somewhat to let you know if you're walking behind me, hey, listen, there's a big branch in the path, or there's a big spider web, be careful. And I think if we all did that for each other, the world would be a little bit better, just a
Yeah.
little bit better.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Because most of the time I feel like we look at the things that we deal with as being only us, and then we want to forget about it and we just keep moving on, right? I know a lot of the coaching and everything that I do comes from I became a coach because I had this problem that I wanted to overcome and I was not doing it very well. And instead of hiring a coach, I said, hell, I'm going to pay all this money. I'm going to become a coach. And if the only person I help is me, it's still money well worth spent.
Come
And
on now.
so, yeah, so then I did that. And then I became a coach. And then I added in hypnosis because I just needed a little more something to add in. But if I hadn't had that problem that I was going through, then I may never have taken on this journey. And I love this journey that I'm on, and the podcast and all of
Mhm.
it. And so it's
So
like when I talk in the intro, it's our mosaic life, change one thing and we're different. So it's like
that's it.
all of our things that we deal with are put there for us to grow in a certain way that we can serve and help others.
And you know what's so funny about that? Like, I'm not sure when you made that discovery for yourself, but for me, that happened in 2020,
Hmm.
right? In 2020, when COVID happened, I found myself at the crossroads. The government job I had was no longer there. The economy was shutting down, and I was going through a mental health and faith crisis. And I tried to figure out, how do I extricate myself from the situation? How do I understand what's happening and find a way forward? And that realization that you just said is what struck me. The mistakes and the triumphs of the past are what we use in order to make a successful future,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's why I
Yeah.
came up with the concept of the book, Pivot, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
life is about making a small adjustment to your pattern, to your direction, and pivoting just a little bit. If you're familiar with basketball, in basketball, when you're playing, you can dribble, you can shoot. However, there's a rule that cannot be changed. If you stop dribbling the ball and you hold it, you can only move in the direction of the pivot foot. And the pivot foot doesn't leave the ground. So you can lift one foot up and angle yourself differently, but the pivot foot stays cemented in one spot. And so that mentality is what I discovered in 2020, that we have to be able as individuals to absorb everything from our past, the triumphs, the trials, the good things, the bad things, and use that to forge a way forward into the future.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. That's sounds like exactly what I believe too, just in a few different words. So so I love it. I love it. And like I said, when we got on here and started talking, I felt like we were kindred spirits from the moment. It's
Yes,
like
bless.
sometimes you meet someone and you can energetically just feel that they're a good soul that is actually talking to your soul and having a good time, right? And
So,
so it feels like that. So I appreciate you tremendously. And I will say there's a few people that I've met on my podcast that it was immediately like, there's a connection there. So I appreciate you. So what are these books, things that we're looking at behind you? The Inner
Mm,
Sanctum workbook, and does that say Vision Journal?
yes, it does. Funny you
Okay.
should ask, how did that ever get there? Um,
Yeah. How did it?
I know, right? So the Inner Sanctum, Protecting My Peace Through Poetry, is my latest book. It is a book of 30 poems, okay? And I
Mhm.
could share one later on. The poem I started off this conversation with is from that book. That is the first poem in the book. And what I want to do is capture my understanding of the world in about a year into 150 pages, which I accomplished in 30 poems, one poem per day. And the
Oh,
topics
wow.
range from the first poem you just heard of was about my life, how I view myself, being a Black man in America, at the same time understanding that color is only what you see. It's not the reality.
Hmm.
America is a collection of people who love each other, not just a political entity, you
Right.
know. And being a man is not just about being physically dominating, it's about embracing the yin and the yang, being emotionally intelligent, standing up when you have to, but at the same time knowing when to strategically withdraw, right? So that poem captures that essence for me. And then the other poems deal with Mother Nature, they deal with humanity, they deal with, of course, social media, family, love, the universe. And I wrote a poem for moms because mothers are so underrated in terms of what they have done. Sometimes with so little, right?
Hmm.
And we all have moms, we all have mothers, and to recognize the fact that the mom plays the role that stays with you forever.
Yeah.
I've seen grown men and adults and women cry, missing their mom, and they're 80 years old, so it's like
Yeah.
that feeling never goes because the mom imparts something to you that's different from the father,
Yeah.
right? So I have poems that covers all those topics. And my intention was someone to pick up my book, my poetry book, and just read it, understand what's happening, think a little bit, sip your cup of green tea or your wine, and just at the end of it, say to yourself, you know what? I want to write my own poetry. And here's where the second book comes in. So they're a tandem, right? The
Okay.
workbook on Vision Journal is 250 pages of daily affirmations, writing prompts. There's a section about how to write a business plan, how to write a poem, how to do a haiku, and I want people to be inspired to just write.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. One of the things I have a Facebook group that I pour into. It's a free group and it's called Stand Up and Stand Out.
Mm,
And it is all about embracing our brilliance and stepping out of our comfort zone and becoming who we
yeah,
are, right?
yes.
And I pour into them every single day. I do an affirmation and a journal prompt. And
Look
I
at
do it, I
you.
do it
Okay,
live.
Vickie.
Yeah, I do it
Okay.
live on in Facebook. And and it's funny because when I first started doing that, it's because I didn't have a book like that, but I had the Health Coach Institute that I went to. I bought this little thing of cards. It looked like game cards, right? And
Yes.
it was affirmations on one side and journal prompt on the other. And so there was like 30 or 35 of them or whatever in the deck. And so I told my people on Facebook, I said, I've got this and I have not done anything with these, but just read them myself. I'm going to let's share this every day. And so once I got to the end of it, it was like, well, that was so nice. Let me just keep doing it. So
Oh,
I keep doing it and I don't even know how many months
bless
I've been
your heart.
I've been doing
Oh
it.
my,
Yeah, I love it. And it's like when I get in front of them and just start sharing, because I share stories, it's not just here's the affirmation, here's the journal prompt, thank you, goodbye. There's a lot involved. Sometimes that affirmation and journal prompt is a 30-minute live, and sometimes it's an hour, just depends on the conversation, right? But
yes.
it's beautiful because and like I said, I wrote poetry when I was a young child, right? Oh, when I had there was where we lived when I was a kid, we had this creek that went through the back of the yard, and there was a log that had a tree that had fallen over that, and
I
we'd
love the
walk
visual.
across it and stuff. And
Yeah.
so I used to go sit on that log with my feet dangling in the water, and I would write
Hmm.
poetry. Yeah,
Well, I can see it now. I can
yeah.
see it.
Yeah, because I like you, I love being near the water. I don't care about really getting in it much, but I love being by the water, whether it's a river in the mountains or a creek or a pond or the ocean. I want to be near water.
That's a beautiful thing. As you were speaking, and I love the fact you are a storyteller, right?
Hmm.
You've embraced that journey within yourself to tell stories, because telling a story is partially about being vulnerable, right?
Hmm.
And partially realizing if you don't tell that story, if we didn't hear the story of young Vickie sitting on a log, feet dangling in the water, who would tell that story?
Yeah,
You know, so that's on you, and I'm glad you shared that. But I could visualize that, and that moment. I could tell you something too. The poet that wrote that, the younger Vickie, she's still here.
yeah.
As a matter of fact, I believe she's right there in front of me, waiting for a moment to shine again. All you need is a piece of
Piece of
paper and a
paper.
pen.
Yeah.
You'll be
Well,
surprised.
I am writing a book right now. And so I'm not doing poetry right now, but I'm writing a book, and I use that term loosely
Hmm.
because I'm putting it on index cards and I'm doing the things. I've got one chapter written in my and on my laptop, but I don't dabble in it a lot because I have so much stuff going on. But there's all
Right.
the time these ideas that come to me, and it's so far out of my comfort zone. I was asked to do this, and it is an apocalyptic book. So I don't
Ooh, I
even
love
really
those.
know
I
much
love
about
those.
it. Pardon?
I love those books. Those are
Yeah.
some of the best reads to have on a dark night. You know,
Okay.
when the doors are locked and everything is quiet, just curl up in bed. Oh my goodness, tell me more.
Well, I can't tell you a lot. I just know that I've got like there's a series of books, and I've been asked to write one of the series. And
Wow,
um and
that's
so
amazing.
yeah,
Congratulations.
so it's well, thank you. I just got to get it done. The interesting thing is, there's a timeline where, because they all follow the same timeline as far as the things that happen in the world, right? And so I bought this poster board so I can put the timeline up and start putting my index cards where they need to go. But
Wow.
one of the things that the gentleman that had asked me to be part of this, he said, don't worry about whether you're telling it from the beginning to the end. He said, just talk about it. And so some of the things that I do to get into the space is I go outside at night with when it's dark, and I
Hmm.
close my eyes, and what do I hear? What do I see? What would I feel? And then when I'm in the house doing certain things, I think, okay, well, if this was no longer available, how would I feel? What would I see? What would I do? And so it's definitely getting into this place of a lot of exploring in me and ideas that sometimes I think, whew. So that's why I have my index cards, because something comes to me, I have to write it on the index card and stick it on this little pile so that I can put it all together at some point. So I'm like I
No,
said, I'm
listen,
working on it.
it sounds like you are a planner
Yes,
with the tendencies. You
yes,
know,
I
if a
am.
folks not familiar, apparently there are two camps of writing. Now, me personally, I don't ascribe to any of the camps because I believe, similar to the left brain, right brain methodology, I think we have elements of both, right? So,
Hmm.
a planner allegedly will construct an entire
Allegedly, I like
world.
that.
I know, construct an entire world, index cards and everything. And the pantser could only write when they're in the moment or in the groove, when they feel inspired. I believe we all are a combination of the two. And you
Yeah.
definitely exhibit that because you have your timeline and you have a structure, but at the same time, you want that the inspiration from the outdoors, and
Hmm.
that's beautiful. That's an amazing accomplishment.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. And I'll tell you when the book's done, and then you can really celebrate me.
No, definitely. And if you're ever looking for an editor or ghostwriter, look no further.
Oh,
You know,
really? So you
that
do ghostwriting and editing too?
yes, and ghostwriting is tricky because you can't really talk about it, right?
Right.
But what you call a Holy Ghost writer, meaning that I write books that are of a spiritual, faith-based nature.
Okay.
So when I collaborate with other authors, and there's different levels, so I'm not gonna bore you too much. But if I'm
Oh,
getting
you're not boring me at all. Just keep talking.
if I'm getting co-author credit, then I want to make sure if my name is on the project and it's on the front mass, that it's a good product. And I have some stipulations. For example, it has to be something that leaves something encouraging for the reader at the end. So most of my projects tend to be memoirs of survivors, of folks who are discovering themselves,
Right.
or sharing their journey, and then if I'm a silent ghostwriter, besides collecting my royalties, then it doesn't matter of what's the method we are writing. Are you writing and I'm writing, or are we writing together in a work session? So there's different ways that can go. And of course, as an editor, my main function is a developmental editor.
What does that
So I'm the
mean?
guy. Perfect. Funny you should ask that question. I'm the.
It's almost like you prompted me, but you didn't.
I know, right? So I'm the guy you would come to when you have an idea. So the 7 stages
Well, I've
of
got an idea, so keep going.
the 7 stages of a book are the idea, right? The brainstorming section. Then you have the writing, you have the editing, you have the formatting of the manuscript, you have the publishing, you have the marketing, and finally you have the community, right? Because every book that's ever released does so into a pool of readers. And if a reader's interested, they want to connect with the author, and it goes back to the book, and now you have a community of individuals. So the developmental editor sees the full picture. And if you say, for example, Vickie's like, I want to write a children's book about spending time outdoors, with my younger self as the main character, then I would come in and we would map out the entire process. Okay, how much time do you have to spend on writing it? Who will be your target audience? What are your target sales? What's the format of the book going to look like? Is it going to be full illustrations with the words over as an inlay, or will it be separate pages? Will it be designed for kindergarten through 5th grade, or will it be for adults? And then we plan out the entire thing. It's going to be part of a series. I'm a huge fan of series because that way you can tell a full story and take your time with it.
Yeah.
And that's the concept behind developmental editing. You want to strategize the book, because a book is not just a book. It's either a business card into your ecosystem, or it's your baby you're about to release into the world.
Yeah.
And both of those things require care, require diligence, and require careful planning to make sure that the impact is felt and it does what it's supposed to do. And you, as an author, can now step into that role as a creator.
Beautiful. Well, it's interesting. I have a friend that she's a romance author, and
Love those. Pun
yeah,
intended.
yeah, she has several books, and actually she's amazing. And I went with her to one of her book signing events where it was at this convention area, and it was like they were superstars and stuff. They had the meet and greet, and then the day of, the romance authors that had actual people as their models, as their cover. Some of them had their cover models there, and actually had one of them on my podcast. It was interesting. And then I sat at the table with her, and when people would come up, I would, because I'd read most of her books, and I would say, I don't normally like romance books, but these are different. And I would talk about these different things. And I had the most fun meeting with these people, right? And the thing that blew me away, and that people that are watching or listening that have never been to something like this, I was like, what? There were people that were buying so many books that they had wagons they were pulling behind them. They were full of stuff. And then some of them they had ordered ahead of time, and they were picking them up then because they wanted them signed. And I mean, it was like this massive
experience. Yes.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. And so that was the first time I'd ever done that. So I told her, I said, if you ever need me to do this again, let me know. Yeah, and I'll go, because it was fun, right? And then the other thing I was going to mention is I am writing another book. Well, I haven't started yet. Let me just tell you, a friend of mine, we have this process that we've been doing together for, we looked at the timeline for probably 2.5 years or something. And it's something that we do together that helps to inspire each other. And we talk once a week and we do this
That's
inspirational
beautiful.
thing.
That is
So
beautiful.
we decided together that we're going to write a book about it because it has been such an amazing process, and we can, we've been doing it together for this amount of time, and we can tell, how the timeline of how things changed and how things got better and how we, actually created this change with this process. And
Right.
so we're scheduling in September to go to a mountain cabin, to have like a long weekend to kind of sush
Oh,
out some of the stuff that we're going to do. So I'll definitely have to keep your information to the side and talk to her and say, hey, do you want to, let's talk to him and see what we need to do, or do we want to try this on our own? What do we want to do? But I'm super excited. So I have all these things going on, and
no,
I
that's
mean,
beautiful. And I would like
yeah,
to say, I'm going to offer this to you now. If
okay.
you guys want to tap in with me for like 30 minutes, complimentary on the house, just to get my insight or some points of clarification, you have my information, you can do so. Because I would definitely love to. Part of the journey as an author, and for me, having my own publishing house, is sharing knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Because before I started my journey in 2020, I spoke to about 24 different authors, both traditional and independent or self-published. And from that collective of a conversation is how I discovered my own journey. So feel free to tap in. I'll gladly share what I know, my insights with you, because that is what we are here for, to share
Mm-hmm.
our knowledge with each other.
Oh, that would be beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. So you have your own publishing house too?
That is correct. Well, part of the research I did, I realized, number one, with all respect to traditional publishing houses, I believe, and respect to your platform, are not the way to go, right? The
Mm-hmm.
many of authors I spoke to who had stacks of rejection letters, stacks of, they did the full thing. They had a book agent, a literary agent. They had a great manuscript, 200K words, a great story, a great audience base, but rejected by traditional publishing houses. When that made sense, maybe 20, 30 years ago, when Mark Twain was doing his books. You know, even the great J.K. Rowling from Harry Potter fame, she got rejected like 11 times from a traditional publishing house.
Right.
However, in today's world, with today's technology, you can, and it's as simple as 4 steps, you can write your book in Microsoft Word, format the chapters and have a table of content, make a book cover on a PDF or as an image, go to Amazon or Barnes Noble or Apple iStore and upload your book, register your name, enter your bank account information, and then you can order your own copies as the author for like $5, physical copy, sell them onto the trunk of your car like I did, or you can have like a social media platform and just post videos and content about your book with the link for people to go back to Amazon, Barnes Nobles, and purchase your book your
Yeah.
way. The only difference is how much of your rights you retain. Because at the end of the day, if I have 200 people in my contact, in my phone, and each of them will buy a book, 200 books is amazing. That's better than the majority of books in today's world, period.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I knew I had to start my own publishing house, publish my own books the way I wanted to. And then other people started asking me, hey, I like your book. I bought it. It's amazing. How did you do it? What's the process? And so the publishing house grew from me applying my knowledge to other books and to other authors. So now we have a couple of authors who will be coming out hopefully this year. We have a couple of proofs that are in the pipeline being read by the beta readers
Mm-hmm.
just to verify everything, because we don't want our books to end up in the dollar store bin, right?
Right.
And it's a wonderful process, and I get to meet and talk to so many different authors, so many different stories. And this is just simply the way it had to be done to me, having my own publishing house. But also, I'm a cheat code. I have amazing skill sets that allow me to do so. I'm technique based around technology,
Mm-hmm.
so Microsoft Office 365, I used to be a trainer in that program.
Okay.
I'm also a administration and organizational manager, so I do program management. I was a shelter manager, down here in South Florida for the hurricanes. So I understand the entire logistics and scheduling and people management. So all of my skills naturally lent itself to me building a publishing house. And we're still only a couple of years old, but we don't know what the limit will be. And all we can do right now is make great books, great quality products like you see behind me, and encourage others to keep on writing and always retain your rights and your royalties.
Okay, beautiful. So if you're going to a traditional publishing, how much do they usually keep of your royalties?
90%.
Really?
Yes, because how that works is, I think of it like if you have a great story and a publishing house, traditional publishing house, believe in your story, they're going to invest tens of thousands of dollars into distribution, marketing. They'll have you go on a press junket, right, and talk to different media.
Mm-hmm.
They want to return on their investment. The only way they can do so is by owning your intellectual property.
Right.
So you'll sign your contract with them, and I'm not knocking it per se, but if it works for you, it works for you,
Right.
and they'll say, listen, we'll own your book, we'll own your story and your characters, we'll produce it, market it, you just show up, go where we tell you to go, and depending on the success of the book, we cut you a check once a month or once a quarter, So
Mm-hmm.
if you get there, that's great. However, if you're independently published, I get 60%, 60, of all my royalties. And if I sell a book in person, that's all my funds, and I deduct my expenses and I take it from there. So
Right.
what we focus on is letting folks know, first question, why are you writing your book? Who's it for? Who cares? There's tons
Yeah.
of books in the library. Why should your book make a difference in anyone's life? So once that question is answered, then the second question is, how do you get the books to people? Are you going to have a social media channel? Are you going to go live on all these audio room apps that we have, like Clubhouse and Fanbase and LinkedIn and X? Or are you going to go to your local libraries and have actual book seminars and book workshops and talk about your book? So there are different ways, if you have the time and the money, you can produce and market your own book.
Okay. So is that something that you help the people with too, to figure out how they're going to market?
Developmental editing, there we go.
Okay.
So one of the questions we always ask is, where are you located and how many contacts do you have in your phone and what's your community like? One lady we're working with right now, the question we asked her was, how many bookstores do you drive by between home and work? And she said 5. I said, okay, have you stopped by any point in the past 10 years? She said, yes. I said, perfect. So now we know we can contact those bookstores directly with her book already lined up and available in the inventory system, and they can carry 1 or 2 copies. And she can even do separate book launches at each of the bookstores once they're open to that. And what we've discovered is bookstores love local writers.
Mm-hmm.
But we
There's
definitely
even there's even a used bookstore not too far from me that they have a whole section in the front that is all local authors. All new books, yeah. And then my friend that's the romance novelist, she actually went and did a book signing there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And that's what we need. We need authors to tap into their community, to share. And if you can get into the schools, if you can talk to the school board, do a presentation. A lot of creatives are very introverted by nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we spend so many times, like you said, we're looking at the clouds. I'm looking at the oceans for like a couple of hours, just relaxing, but now to go in front of people and to talk and to interact and to have a business meeting, one of the services we offer is a business plan. And I tell folks all the time, go online, type in business plan template
Mm-hmm.
and fill it in. You'll be surprised how much you understand of what you're trying to do, of your hobby, of your books, because it shows you the structure you need to be successful.
Yeah. Beautiful. there's so much about it that I guess as a person that's not done anything but kind of dabbled in the writing and everything, that you don't even think about, that is pretty important. You know, I do have a book on Amazon though. It's a journal, and I did a digital journal and I put it in on Amazon. I don't even know that I've sold a couple of them, you know, not that big a deal, but for some reason it was like, oh,
You have
look at
to,
me.
you have to buff your nails and pat yourself on the shoulder. You know,
Yeah.
the funny thing about human beings is, and when you understand the human mind, that the dopamine rush and all that good stuff, when you accomplish something, you have to be happy and proud of it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because the opposite is you not doing anything.
Right.
So I'm going to give you some snaps
Well,
for
thank
putting
you.
your journal
And they're going to
into that.
go a long time because it's important, right?
Come on now. Come on now. Ooh, I'm tired now.
This is so much fun. I've learned so much from you already. You know, as I'm talking about all of this stuff, it's really getting me a little bit more excited about diving into these different things that I'm doing, you
Yes.
know? I meet with, like, my friend that we're going to be writing the book together. I meet with her every Thursday morning on Zoom. Well, we don't do Zoom anymore because we're getting ready and stuff. So we just talk on the phone. And it's I really feel like now, after us having this conversation today, when I talk to her in the morning, I'll be saying, okay, we got to make sure we go ahead and get the business plan thing out. We go ahead and we start doing some of these things so we have the logistics things in place, right? And that way,
Exactly.
when we start writing, we'll have a clearer idea of how we'll be moving forward. And I'll tell her about you, because I'm assuming, just to check with you here, what you're saying is that once we get the book published, or you're not published, but once we start writing the book, then call you, or do we call you before? Do you help people get to the place where they get more clarity on how to do the writing process, or what's your thoughts on that?
All of the above. This was like an easy multiple choice, A, B, or C, or all of the above. Do
Okay.
you know there was a trick question? Because most of the time when it was all of the above, it was indeed all of the above. So you are correct in that. The idea is you have to be able to plan out and strategize the book and its impact, the book journey, so to speak, because you're the
Mm-hmm.
author, and this is your journey also. What exactly do you want your book to do? What's the impact? What's the community you're trying to build? And then once you establish that, and of course we help with that, then you have the actual formation of and the design and the series name. And if you're doing world building, you got to have different rules and mechanics in place. That's the structure of the book itself. And then you have the implementation of the marketing plan of what steps. Do you want to be on social media an hour a day? Or maybe you prefer to operate locally. So we do help with all aspects, either from the idea to the finished product. And it's important to have a plan, and that's what we do. So whatever you need help in, if you want to tap in the beginning, just to get a more of a structure so you know how you are designing and how you're structuring the entire strategy, or you're looking at the formatting and the design of the book itself and the cover and the page numbers and the font you're going to be using and the chapter layouts, those kind of situations with the book itself, any aspect, just tap in.
Okay, beautiful. Well, thank you so much. And I see we're getting close to time. So it has been an amazing opportunity to talk to you. So do you even remember, how did we connect? Was it
I
on
believe
StreamYard? Was it?
StreamYard.
I was thinking it might have been StreamYard. I've had a few people on my podcast that I met from StreamYard, and it was great. Yeah. Yeah, because we talked about using Zoom for this instead of StreamYard, didn't we?
Ooh, mm, yes. File that on the not to discuss anymore. How did we get here? We
I
don't know.
don't know. I don't know. But this has been amazing. I so appreciate you. And so is there Anything in particular that you want to leave our audience with as your final last words before we close out?
Definitely. 3 simple things. Number 1, go out and buy my books. You can type in Dwight Thompson, aka The Right Warrior. Pine Cones and Spaceships is my book series that deals with faith and mental health, South Florida family, dealing with 2020 and COVID and a whole bunch of situations, poetry, essays, one-liners, short stories, right? So number 1, support the work and buy my books. Number 2, write your own book. If you don't know how, tap in with me. We'll do a complimentary 15-minute sit down and chat and just figure out where are you in the process. Again, there's 7 steps. You know, the idea, the writing, the editing, the formatting, the publishing, the marketing, the community. Where are you and how would we be a part of your process and your system, right? And so that's number 2. You can visit businessandcreativewriting.com. That's our main website. And you see the list of services that we have, the opportunities that we offer, and how you can work with us and tap in with us. And number three, be kind to one another.
Oh,
It doesn't take much, right? It
right.
sometimes takes a lot. I'll be honest with you. However, we are on this earth and we're just passing through. You know, we're passengers and we have to be diligent and be kind to one another. Always operate from a safe place. So once you are secure, and this book is about that, you have to find your peace. And once you find your peace, you build, you preserve, you expand, and then you protect your peace. Because if you are okay, then you can help others be okay. But if you're not okay, take some time for yourself.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. That's beautiful. So I'm going to just let everybody know that when I publish this, I'll have a description. And in that description, I'll put all of Dwight's links so that all you have to do is just pop in right there and get to the link, and you can find him, or all the places that you can find him. It'll all be there. And then I'll leave everybody with one of my favorite quotes. And I couldn't tell you who said it, so don't even ask me. You might know, though. The best way to predict the future is create it. So what are you creating?
Ooh,
Yes. Beautiful,
that's a
right?
mic drop. Love it.
All right. So everybody, be blessed. Mwah.